Hi, welcome. I'm Christine. Thank you so much for joining us today. I think we have a really great topic that will hopefully give you some great tips on why your child has been struggling with food. Now, if you are new to my work, if this is the first time that you are listening and you're not really sure where to begin or how we can help, I am a feeding therapist, a speech pathologist, and I help parents transform their child's meal times from super stressful to getting them all the way to becoming foodies and loving food. And it is possible. It is possible to do. I know sometimes when you're in the trenches, it doesn't feel like it, but that is our passion and our purpose here. So today we're going to talk about 5 hidden reasons that your child is struggling with food. Now, if you are not new to my work, you might have heard me talk about some of these things before, but we'll pull them all together in this one episode here. So, you might be thinking like, okay, like there might be something more going on here. I actually just got off a phone call with a parent who literally said those exact words to me. Like, I kind of was thinking that it was normal. And then all of a sudden, he did something like kind of strange and out of the blue. And I started to think, maybe there's something else going on here. Maybe I should speak to a professional about this. So, these are 5 areas that you're going to want to take a closer look at. If you're thinking, is my child, a problem feeder or just normal picky eating? So, the first one is sensory sensitivities, right? Now, this could be sensory processing disorder, which is something that is often part of autism, does not have to be. My child had a lot of sensory processing issues visually and auditorily when he was younger that we have since really remediated, I would say, for the most part, maybe like 95%. It's better. Once in a while, he'll still say something's like a little bit too much, but for the most part, we can help the nervous system regulate with different sensory issues that are going on. But some things to keep in mind um, for you guys, if you are brand new to this concept, is just things like the smell of food, the texture of food, like how it feels, either feels on their hand or in their mouth, the sound it makes when you eat that food, right? Some foods are crunchy and it actually creates a sound like within your head. If you think about it, it's probably something you don't even think about at all. Like when you just eat food, it's like your sensory system kind of tunes some of those things out if they're not an issue for you, because you can't take in all of the sensory things in your environment like all at the same time. It's just too overwhelming. So your sensory system will dull things that it feels are not important. But for kids with sensory issues that are more heightened, and often it is heightened, sometimes it's like they're like undersensitive and they need like a lot more of it to like balance themselves out. But a lot of times it's that they're like, whoa, it's like too overwhelming. Sometimes even the sight of foods, like kids that gag at just looking at a food, they didn't even put it in their mouth. Like if that is your child or if you've seen that happen before, that's like an overstimulation of like that visual system for them. And it might only be with food, right? So you might be like, well, they don't do this with anything else. So I don't think it's a sensory issue, but it could be when it comes to food. So are they like over responsive to some of those areas when it comes to eating? Um, you know, some kids love certain textures and don't love others. And I'm not saying you have to love every texture, but you might find that there's like a pattern that you're noticing. Like, oh, they only like pureed foods, or they really only eat crunchy foods. And sometimes there is a mix. Sometimes, you can have kids that eat a little bit of puree and a little bit of crunchy, um, but they don't like soft foods. Like there might be like a texture that is maybe more obvious. So if you write down all the foods that they're eating, you might notice a pattern. Um, it's like more based on their sensory wiring system. It's like foods that are, let's just say they're eating all crunchy foods. Foods that are crunchy are safe. Foods that are crunchy are, I don't know, they feel good in my mouth or on my hand or whatever. Some kids don't like wet foods or they don't like dry foods. It really is going to be dependent. But if you can make that list yourself and be very specific, because just saying strawberries, it could be they only eat freeze dried crunchy strawberries, right? Very different from a fresh strawberry. Okay. Or they only eat strawberry gummies, right? That they like that gummy texture. But whatever it is, try to find that pattern. Okay, number 2, oral motor challenges. So we're talking about weak muscles for things like chewing, things like undiagnosed tongue ties and lip ties, jaw fatigue. So if you're only, eating foods that require 1 to 2 bites, and then you try to present a food like a vegetable or a meat that requires 10 to 15 bites, that's going to be way too challenging and might make them spit it out or just refuse it altogether, or gag at some point, right? And make it harder for them to eat that food. Um, if that food feels really hard to manage in their mouth, if they don't feel comfortable moving it around safely, they're very likely going to avoid that food completely. Okay. Number 3, gut health imbalances. This is a huge one that often is missed in the realm of feeding therapy. Constipation, bloating, pain, sensitivities, allergies to certain foods or ingredients can all cause issues with food, making kids not want to eat, not want to try because they associate it with a pain of some sort. Okay. So constipation, bloating, acid reflux is a huge one. Um, Tummy pain. And now I'm just going to caution this. Sometimes parents are like, oh, they don't seem like they're in pain. But if they have had an issue for actually their entire life, they might not know life without that pain. So to them, that discomfort is just the status quo. Like that's just how things are. They might not know what it feels like to actually feel free of that feeling. So sometimes when we remediate the gut issues and they start to feel better, all of a sudden they have this appetite and they're more interested in food. But it's also because we've gotten rid of the problem, right? Number 4, anxiety, emotional overload, like fear of gagging, meltdowns, things like that, fear of vomiting, history of stressful meal times. It can make eating overwhelming. If there's always a battle, if there's always a fight, if there's always a fear there. Sometimes just sitting at the table is a trigger for kids, or being in the kitchen. Like we have kids who can't even eat in their kitchen. And one of the goals is to get them to sit and eat at the table with others, right? So that anxiety piece can really inhibit progress with meal times. And then number 5, and this kind of goes hand in hand with that last one, but negative past food experiences like choking, being really pressured to try and eat things, that just take a bite, being forced to finish their plates, can create this negative connotation with meal times, with foods, with certain care providers. And even if you don't think that they could possibly remember things that happened in the past, the nervous system in your body will always remember. It doesn't have to be a memory that they can verbalize. Your nervous system and your subconscious brain will hold on to those experiences. So we have to try to sort of take a step back and undo some of those negative experiences by making and creating positive experiences with food, which is possible to do. But the key here and why I broke these 5 reasons down is that you have to know the real reasons why they might be struggling. Otherwise, you might be trying a strategy or doing something in therapy that is not going to move them forward because you haven't uncovered one of the main reasons that they're actually being held back in the first place, right? So I do want you to stop blaming yourself. I want you to stop blaming your child. It's not always about just being defiant. It's often about uncovering the root cause of what's really going on. And when you do that, there's like a lot of times parents explain like, oh, I feel such relief now because it's not like they were being difficult on purpose. Like you have a little bit more compassion, I guess, for the situation versus that frustration and anger that a lot of parents start with because they're just so like at their wits' end by the time they reach us. Right. So it's like once you finally know, you can give them what they need so that they can move forward. Right. So just so you know, picky eating, it's not about forcing more bites. It's about changing the relationship with food so that they actually like food and they want to eat and they are curious and interested in eating. And about healing the root cause, which is what our business is all about. That is our purpose. That is our passion. We love to get to the root cause of things. We love to uncover these hidden struggles. We love to teach parents and help them understand how they can help their child heal and move forward and enjoy food in the future, right? So we give a very, very, very thorough roadmap to what's going on, what's the plan, what are we going to start with, what's going to be next, what are you going to start with at home, all of the things like where do we go? Like, because a lot of times parents just see something on Instagram or TikTok and they're like, I'm going to try that. That's the solution. But if it's not relevant to their child, they're wasting their time. So our roadmap really gives that detailed breakdown. And it's really important because not every child, not every strategy will apply. Not everything is going to make sense for your family or your situation, right? So you might be missing things you're not even aware of. And if you have no idea where your child is, are they fearful? Are they stuck? Are they curious? Head over to the pickyeaterstest.com. Find out what type of eater they are. And from there, you can get some clear steps about what actions you're going to need to take next to make sure that they are having the progress that you are hoping for. So I hope this episode was really interesting and has helped give you some clarity. Make sure you head over to that pickeaterstest.com so that you can get started on this journey and take some of these things into consideration when you're thinking about your child and their eating. All right, we will see you next week. I hope you guys have a great week.
Thank you for listening to How to Unpicky Your Picky Eater. To learn more about achieving your child's feeding goals, check out Christine's website at foodologyfeeding.com. And be sure to tune in next time to How to Unpicky Your Picky Eater.